What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with my 11.2 Season 3 Red Paladin PvP guide. First things first though, I don't know how to say this, but I want to thank everyone that helped out with Chester's GoFundMe. Unfortunately, last week Chester did end up passing away. I'll probably make a video in the future in this, going more in depth into thanking everyone for their support, but you know, I appreciate it, and I definitely owe you guys a complete guide, so let's hop right in. The first thing I'm going to go over is the talents. So this build that I'm going to show you guys is the meta build. I'll have a future guide out for some of the off meta builds such as Templar or the 1 minute wings builds, but what I'll show you right here, this is pretty much what you will run 90% of the times. The talents that I'll go over are the optional talents that you can occasionally switch out. The first one being Repentance and Blinding Light. I like Blinding Light a little bit more into Resto Druids, sometimes Resto Shamans, where you really can't get those Repentances off on those classes. And then also in duels, I like Blinding Light because you can blind into a Seer and have that Seer as like an extra CC that you can get out on an enemy in a 1v1 situation. The next two optional talents that we have here are Blessing of Protection. So if you're going to run Blessing of Spellwarding, you don't actually need to take Blessing of Protection. You can remove this point and kind of put it wherever you want. I most typically put it in Abdercy. And then you can either run Sacred Strength or Divine Purpose, either one. Typically, it's kind of your choice here. If you are playing Templar, Divine Purpose is better, but I'll go over that in a future video. For now, I mostly play Sacred Strength just because, you know, we have Aurora, but you really could play either one. They both work. On a side note, some Rets don't play Vengeful Wrath. They'll play Blessed Calling and Abdercy. You can do that, but I really like Vengeful Wrath paired with Blessing of Anchi for some pretty large, you know, almost 4 million crit Hammer Wrath executes. Feels pretty good. And one side note is if you are ever going to play with a Holy Paladin in Solo Shuffle or in Arena, you can always drop one of these points for Holy Reprieve as well. Helps you out there. Some people might be curious why you don't run the stun reduction talent. And that's because this is nerfed by 50% in PvP. The rare scenarios where you might actually run this are in 2v2 Arena if you're fighting, you know, Sub-Rogue plus Healer. And that's really it. You can pull a point out of Light Bearer, pop it in Stoicism, and then, yeah, that just works because sub-rogues aren't really going to cleave you too much, so Light Bearer's not going to kill your healer, and then you get a tiny bit, you know, stun duration reduction from cheap shots and kidney shots. Next up is the Paladin talent tree. This is pretty cookie cutter right here. The first thing that I'll talk about that's kind of preferential is improved Blade of Justice versus Holy Blade. Totally preferential, up to you guys. Doesn't really matter which one you prefer. I go with Holy Blade, but you know, some days I'm feeling improved Blade of Justice and I'll swap over. It's really just complete preferential. One is not necessarily better than the other. After that, I do play more Righteous Cause than I do Art of War. Art of War typically will net you more resets, but the thing is you're not always in melee range, and even against melee classes you are gonna want to kite them sometimes, in which case Righteous Cause gives you a better advantage there. So I typically play Righteous Cause. Next up is this talent point right here, Zealous Fervor. You can kind of either put it in Zealous Fervor or Rush of Light. Now because I play Crusade, I am opting to go with Zealous Fervor right now. But if I am ever Avenging Wrath, I will take that point out of Zealot's Fervor and put it in Rush of Light. After that, your next optional talent points really are your wings here. So you can take either Crusade or Avenging Wrath Might. Actually, it looks like they just call it Avenging Wrath now. That's kind of cool. Okay, so you got regular wings and you got haste wings. So the main advantage to running Avenging Wrath would be your Wake of Ashes directly benefits from that 15% buff, whereas if you're playing Crusade, it's only going to be a 2% damage buff on your Wake of Ashes. So Wake of Ashes does more damage with Avenging Wrath. I'll call it Avenging Wrath Might because it looks like they just renamed it, maybe this patch or whatever. It looks like it does more damage your first 3 globals, and then after that you're kind of relying on crit to have its damage keep up with Crusade. Now, although it's more bursty, I'm kind of preferring Crusade right now. Haste does affect your dots. I tried to do a lot of testing. I couldn't really confirm whether it affected Sun's Wrath tick speed, but it does Dawn Light damage and tick speed. So haste is actually not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was in the past. And then also you get the benefit of faster cast Searing Glares, faster cast Repentances, and just faster globals in general. And Crusade does go up to 23% in PvP combat along with the haste, so it's pretty good. After that, everything else pretty much remains the same. All right, let's get into... Actually, one more thing I'll talk about is the PvP talents. I run Blessing of Sanctuary every game, Searing Glare most games, Hallowed Ground most games, and if I'm fighting spellcasters, I'll typically swap out Searing Glare for Spell Bob, and then I'll swap out Blessing of Protection for one of the other optional talents. Again, build codes will be left in the description of the video. All right, let's get into the gear. So briefly going over the stat priority, you want to get as much versatility as you can, and then mastery and then haste and crit are pretty much equal. I'm going to do a little bit more experimenting with gear once Conquest uncaps, but for the most part right now, the safe bet is prioritizing as much versatility as you can get. So right now in PvP combat, I have 37% burst and 55% mastery. Now you can opt for more damage-oriented builds where you kind of prioritize mastery and you go with like maybe double or triple crafted jewelry. But for now, because I'm still building out my first set of gear, I'm just going to go the safe route and then experiment from there. So right here, I have my helm. We have the set piece helm socketed with a versatility mastery gem called the Masterful Sapphire. Then I have the Conquest neck. I have the set piece shoulders. I have my Reshi wraps. I have a guide on my YouTube channel about the Reshi wraps. If anyone is curious, just search my name and Reshi wraps. I have the pure dexterous fiber in there. That makes it so the Reshi wraps gives you versatility. And then I have the speed enchant. I have my crafted chest piece, which I'll eventually switch out for a versatility mastery chest piece. But this is 720 item level, so I'm not too pressed about that. Enchanted with crystalline radiance. I have my Astral Warmonger's bracers, which I'll eventually upgrade to the Conquest piece as well. Enchanted with speed. I have my primary Conquest weapon here. I have Authority of Radiant Power, but you can run the Mastery Enchant as well. Neither of which are that powerful, but I might test out the Mastery Enchant very soon. I have my set piece gloves. I have crafted Verse Mastery belt here with a Masterful Sapphire gem. I have my set piece pants with strength and stamina enchant, and then I have speed on my crafted boots with versatility mastery. I have a crafted ring, versatility mastery as well, and then I have the enduring bloodstone in there, the unique, we'll call it the meta gem for you old school WoW players. And I have elemental focusing lens on each of these pieces. So if you guys are new to the season or new to the expansion, elemental focusing lens is kind of like a special enchant that you can put on crafted gear. Now this damage proc will not activate until you have one stat gem. So not a bloodstone, but a stat gem like the Masterful Sapphire. After that, it will begin to proc. And then I'm just running, actually most games I run double DPS trinkets as human. But if I'm ever fighting like a rogue boomkin or mage rogue or feral mage, then I will probably end up running a medallion trinket there. But I do actually quite frequently play double DPS trinkets as human. All right, let's get into the rotation. So playing Radiant Glory Crusade Herald is probably the easiest of all the specializations that you could choose for Ret Paladin. It is very Zug-Zug oriented. Your buttons, you push them on cooldown and you do damage. But there are modifiers that you should be aware of, and things that actually do increase your damage. So the first one being Of Dusk and Dawn, Blessing of Dawn. So every 3 holy power generators that you press, you are going to do 15% additional damage on your next final verdict. Something to note about this is that every other Crusading Strike will generate a charge. So you need 2 slashes of your Crusading Strike to generate a charge of Blessing of Dawn. Outside of that, you have your Greater Judgment modifier, which causes Final Verdict to deal 20% more damage. You have your Holy Flames modifier, which causes your holy abilities in general, not just your spenders, to deal 5% more holy damage. You have your Crusade stacks, which are modifiers for your damage. And then you have your Final Reckoning and your Burn to Ash, which also modifies your damage. So if you guys are unaware, Burn to Ash is something that you should probably try and play around as Herald. You really want to make sure that your Wake of Ashes is hitting, your initial Wake of Ashes is hitting, so that you burn the target with Truce Wake. So then your Dawn Lights deal 30% more damage. And if Truce Wake ever crits, then this lasts a little bit longer, which is actually another argument to make for regular Avenging Wrath. But for the moment, I'm sticking with Crusade. I do quite frequently go back and forth, but for the sake of this guide, we're going to stick with Crusade here. But this is something to be aware of. And you just send your buttons and do damage. So if I was to give you guys a standard opener here, I would toss a Judgment on my way over to the target. Blade of Justice, we're going to overcap. Final Reckoning Badge, Wake of Ashes, double Final Verdict. 1, 2, Divine Toll, Final Verdict, Judgment again, Final Verdict, Blessing of Machi proc, Final Verdict, Blade of Justice, Final Verdict, Judgment, Final Verdict, Hammer Wrath, Final Verdict. And non-Blessing of Anchi Hammer Wraths, if you have any other abilities, any other generators, you push those first. Because one, Blade of Justice would give you more holy power and apply your holy flames. And two, you want to get Judgment on cooldown as often as you can to make sure that you're maximizing your Greater Judgment benefit. So really the ret rotation is kind of a prioritization of keeping your generators on cooldown while doing your best to not overcap on holy power. But on occasion, on your openers, you might overcap on holy power, but just on that initial opener. And that's because, you want your opener to have that 5% more damage from holy flames on the target. And you also want the initial Greater Judgment benefit from your Judgment on the target. Outside of that, you're really never overcapping holy power, especially as Herald. So like if you're sitting at 4 holy power and you have to choose between capping off, going past the 5 holy power limit with a Judgment, just press the Final Verdict and then Judgment and then Final Verdict again. All right, pretty simple rotation. The other specializations have a little bit more complex burst setups, but I advise everyone to play this build, especially if you are just starting out. And then stay tuned for other future rotation guides for Templar and the 1-minute wings. All right, next thing I'll go over is my macros. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to link all my macros in the description below, so you guys don't have to strain your eyes on the screen and check out what my macros are. But if you guys see on my screen, I have the Exorcism icon for Blade of Justice. That's nothing special. That's just an icon change. I have a Wake of Ashes macro that's pretty important. This cancels your Solar Wrath effect because there's a bug right now with the 2-piece set bonus from Herald. If you proc a Radiant Glory with an active Solar Wrath, it will cancel out your Sun's Avatar and you won't benefit from it. So what this does is it cancels Soul Wrath if you do, press your Wake of Ashes and you have a proc of it. And it kind of quote unquote fixes the bug. It doesn't fix it in all scenarios, but it at least fixes it in the scenario where you would have a Solar Wrath and then you want to reburst with your Wake of Ashes. All other macros, so my Freedom, my Blessing macros, my Protection macros, my Healing macros, those are all Party 1 and Party 2. And the best way that I can explain Party 1 and Party 2 is that, say you get in a group of 3, you're in a solo shuffle, you're in 3v3 arena, wherever you fall on the raid frame, if the highest frame above you is Party 1 and the lowest frame below you is Party 2. If, say for example, you're the top frame, well then the middle frame is Party 1 and then the bottom frame is Party 2. It's actually quite simple to understand once you guys kind of get a hold of where, frames lie in WoW. and then you can just kind of correlate your keybinds to the position of those on the raid frame itself. Now there are add-ons to help with this, but I just don't use the add-ons. I don't like when the add-ons break, although to be honest, the macros this expansion and last expansion have been kind of breaking as well. And maybe I'll do a guide in the future on how to set up frame sort and dynamic macros. But for the most part, I've just always played with party 1 and party 2 and, you know, got rank 1 with it. So it can work. So the way that these macros work are that I have a keybind for, we'll take example, my Blessing of Freedom. So 5. If I push 5 right here, it's not doing anything. And that's because this button specifically is target party 1 Blessing of Freedom. If I hold shift, I have another keybind set up over on the right side of my screen here for shift 5. That's party 2. And then I have R, which freedoms myself, or if I mouse over a target, either in a BGV or their frame, it will freedom them, and then, you know, also myself because I'm running Unbound Freedom. That is how party macros work, and I have them for all of my helpful spells. I have them for my Lay, my Sacrifice, my Blessing of Sanctuary, my Blessing of Protection, Freedom, Flash of Light, Word of Glory. I have them for all of them. So basically for all my helpful spells, I have 3 binds. I have myself, and then party 1 and party 2, except the binds with party 1 and party 2 are pretty much all shift modifiers, so I don't have to really think about it too much. So Lay on Hands, party 1, shift 1, Lay on Hands, party 2. It's really just using modifiers to reduce the number of keybinds that I would need overall. It's not like I have, you know, QWE for one spell. No, not that bad, not that bad. I basically have, you know, 2 binds, and then one of the binds has a shift modifier. I'm trying to think of any other macros. Oh yeah, my Final Reckoning macro is a cursor macro. And keep in mind, all these are in the description. Basically what this macro does is it casts Final Reckoning wherever my cursor is without needing to, you know, left click after you push the button. It avoids the green circle. So if you're not used to targeting the ability, it might not be for you, but I would definitely recommend quick casts like this if you're looking to get better at the game, because it does help, in my opinion. And then I have Focus CC macros like Focus Hammer of Justice and Focus Repentance and Focus Rebuke. And the only thing that those do are that if I hold down shift, it will go on my focus target. So let me set this guy to focus, deselect it, hold shift, and boom, it stuns my focus target. Pretty simple stuff. Again, all this will be in the description of the video. In terms of add-ons, I'll talk a little bit about my add-ons actually. So I have a Tell Me When, which I will leave a link to in the description of the video to my add-on guide. Now nothing has changed with my add-ons. I don't use any new add-ons from, you know, pretty much the entire expansion. Use Tell Me When, Weakauras, Omni CD, and all these add-ons here. You pretty much set them up by yourself. So Omni CD is the add-on that I think that most people need, along with big debuffs. And Omni CD allows you to track the teammate cooldowns on your raid frames. So you just type /Omni CD, you open it up, and you can go into spells, and you can click what you want to track. Now, I don't recommend tracking everything on every class, just the big things. So like if I wanted to track a Demon Hunter's, I don't know, defensive utility, and it's mostly defensive that I track. I don't really need to track my team's offensive cooldowns, but if I'm trying to not overlap a Lay on Hands or Blessing of Protection or something, I like to see if my warrior has Die by the Sword, if my warrior has Enrage Regen, or if my warlock has their wall, so I don't immediately go and push my Blessing of Protection if I see that they have an available wall or an active wall. As far as Weakauras go, you can download the Mez Weakaura package, but Weakauras have just been getting like way out of control, and I've been peeling my back. Honestly, I don't even really pay attention to Weakauras, so I could probably just get rid of them entirely and just use my Omni CD at this point. But because I have some Weakauras that I use to track my own spells, I don't want to delete the entire thing. As far as I understand, Blizzard is actually going to remove add-ons in the near future. Maybe not the near future, but, you know, midnight. which could be as soon as early next year. So we'll see how that goes. But again, in the description of my video will be a link to my last add-on guide. In terms of the meta, I actually think Ret is still S tier. Ret is really good in Soul Shuffle. It's pretty good in threes. It's really good in threes, but definitely threes is a little bit, it's not as powerful because there are some counter comps. And then actually, surprisingly, I feel like Ret right now is really good in 2v2 arena. Like I'm just destroying 2v2 arena right now, which is pretty fun. Both as Templar and Herald. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a thumbs up. Thank you again for support in the difficult week, 2 weeks. Thank you again. All right, I'll see you all next time. Peace.